If a stranger came up to you on the street and asked you to describe the best day of your life, what would you say? What about the worst day? At first, these questions may seem quite simple, easy to answer. Both of those days would be impossible not to remember. They both created such an immense impact on your life. Well, you'd laugh uncomfortably at first, that's for sure. You would think for a few split seconds and have your answer sitting on the tip of your tongue when suddenly you realize how difficult this question really is. It is not quite as obvious as you first presumed. It eludes you completely. In the course of a single second, your mind would be overcome with memories that create a mix of emotions and sensations. And then it hits you. You think of that one best day, that one worst day. You feel it within you that those are the days that changed you, yet almost irrevocably forgotten in the next instant by the next bad or good thing that happened to you. But in that present moment, in front of that stranger, the answer to those questions could, in fact, not be any more obvious. What was the worst day?
Well, I'm afraid that was being depressed and really feeling as though I'd reached rock bottom and there was nowhere else to go, and not knowing if there was a way to get up and out, but wanting desperately to get there, and just feeling overwhelmed. It was like being in hell. I never knew if I believed in hell or not, but it was sort of being so depressed. I knew it was hell, and that was it. But, okay.
That's awesome.
Thank you. That was perfect.
Probably this summer when I realized my grandma had terminal cancer and she died days later.
I think I would have to say the worst day of my life was on December the 19th, 2006. I had had a biopsy on a lump in my breast 2 weeks earlier, and on December the 19th I had gone down to St. Mike's Hospital and they told me I had breast cancer. So I would have to say that was probably the worst day of my life. More than anything, because the first thing that popped into my head were my kids, because they had gone through a lot that year with their grandparents dying, and all of a sudden then I had to tell my kids that I had cancer. So that was definitely the worst day of my life.
And how about the worst day of your life?
The worst day of my life would have to be before I made that decision. I actually was a nurse for a number of years in the States, and I did the schooling. I actually enjoyed the work for a while, but it kind of just got really stressful dealing with all the death and the darkness and some of the government red tape, in the States with their healthcare system. And I couldn't take it after a few years, and it was just really weighing on me. And the worst day of my life was when I quit, because I just spent so much time in my life getting ready to do that, living that career because I had wanted to, and then ended up not being what I wanted. It was just kind of really heart-crushing.
At times, the world can seem an unfriendly and sinister place. You feel as though everything and everyone is prepared to make your life miserable. But believe us when we say there is more good than bad. You just need to look hard enough for it. Lemony Snicket once wrote, "What might seem to be a series of unfortunate events may in fact be the first steps to a journey."
So, what was the best day of your life?
Well, there have been a lot of really good days, but I think probably the best day of all was giving birth for the first time and having a baby. Although you associate it with a lot of discomfort, at the same time there's such a reward at the end that's quite life-changing. I don't think you're the same afterwards, and it just seemed at the time nothing short of miraculous.
My best day was probably that same summer when I was in Europe, and I just had a really good day. A lot of fun things happened. So, yeah, indeed.
Well, as strangely as this sounds, it wasn't necessarily the best day of my life at the time, but looking back in hindsight, that day was actually also the best day of my life because it made me reevaluate how I was living my life with regards to my thoughts and the food I put in my mouth. And from that day forward, I went to see a naturopath, and that's where I learned all the healing properties of food and all the other things that people take for granted of. And that is the day that I learned how to really be healthy.
The best day of my life was the second year after I was trying to break into the comic book industry, because I had spent the first year going around showing my samples, talking to different editors and creators that I looked up to, and they didn't know me from anybody. When I went back that next year, they actually recognized me, and that was just kind of an ego boost, because how are these guys recognizing me? I haven't even done anything yet. But they recognized me from when I had talked to them about how to break in the prior year, and they've just been really encouraging ever since. It's just probably the best experience of my life is making a big career change and then actually having people support you. It was the actual people that I looked up to since I was in high school like 15 years ago.
Each morning when I open my eyes, I say to myself, I, not the events, have the power to make me happy or unhappy today. I can choose which it shall be. Yesterday is dead, tomorrow hasn't arrived yet. I have just one day today, and I'm going to be happy in it.